Just after nightfall, a warrant arrived at the city's main women's prison for the execution of Sajida al-Rishawi. The instructions had come from King Abdullah II himself, then in Washington on a state visit, and were transmitted from his private plane to the royal court in Jordan's capital. A clerk relayed the message to the Interior Ministry and then to the Prisons Department, where it caused a stir. State executions are complicated affairs requiring many steps, yet the king's wishes were explicit. The woman would face the gallows before the sun rose the next day. The chief warden quickly made the trek to the cell where Rishawi had maintained a kind of self-imposed solitary confinement for close to a decade. The prisoner, 45 now and no longer thin, spent most of her days watching television or reading a paperback Quran, seeing no one and keeping whatever thoughts she had under the greasy prison-issued hijab she always wore. She was not a stupid woman, yet she seemed perpetually disconnected from whatever was going on around her. "When will I be going home?" she asked her government-appointed lawyer during rare meetings in the months after she was sentenced to death. Eventually, even those visits stopped. Now, when the warden sat her down to explain that she would die in the morning, Rashida nodded her assent, but said nothing. If she cried or prayed or cursed, no one in the prison heard a word of it. That she could face death was not a surprise to anyone. In 2006, a judge sentenced Rishawi to hang for her part in Jordan's worst-ever terrorist attack. 3 simultaneous hotel bombings that killed 60 people, most of them guests at a wedding party. She was the suicide bomber who lived, an odd, heavy-browed woman made to pose awkwardly before TV cameras, showing off the vest that had failed to explode. At one time, everyone in Amman knew her story, how this 35-year-old unmarried Iraqi had agreed to wed a stranger so they could become a man and wife suicide team, how she panicked and ran, how she had wandered around the city's northern suburbs in a taxi, lost, stopping passers-by for directions, still wearing streaks of blood on her clothes and shoes. But nearly 10 years had passed. The hotels had been rebuilt and renamed, and Rishawi had vanished inside Jordan's labyrinthine penal system. Within the Juwaida women's prison, she wore a kind of faded notoriety, like a valuable museum piece that no one looks at anymore. Some of the older hands in the State Security Service called her Zarqawi's woman, a mocking reference to the infamous Jordanian terrorist Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who ordered the hotel bombings. The younger ones barely remembered her at all. Then, in the span of a month, everything changed. Zarqawi's followers, it turned out, had not forgotten Rishawi. The terrorists had rebranded themselves over the years and were now known in Jordan by the Arabic acronym Daesh, in English, ISIS. And in January 2015, ISIS asked to have Rishawi back. The demand for her release came in the middle of Jordan's worst domestic crisis in years. A Jordanian Air Force jet had crashed in Syria, and its young pilot had been captured alive by ISIS fighters. The group had broadcast photos of the frightened, nearly naked pilot being paraded around by grinning jihadists, some of them reaching out to embrace this great gift that Allah had dropped from the sky. From the palace to the security agencies, the king and his advisors steeled themselves for even more awful news. Either the pilot would be publicly butchered by ISIS, they feared, or the terrorists would demand a terrible price for his ransom. True to form, ISIS announced its decision in macabre fashion. Less than a week after the crash, the captured pilot's family received a call at home from the pilot's own cell phone. On the other end, a stranger, speaking in Iraqi-accented Arabic, issued the group's singular demand. "We want our sister, Sajida," the caller said.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.